Hey everyone, hope you're all well. Welcome to my first Q&A video. Now at some point I will want to do a live Q&A video, but as I alluded to in my Instagram story yesterday, I have no idea what I'm doing and I know I would butcher it, so this is almost like a stepping stone into that. And as my first Q&A, I kind of wanted to make it as simple as possible and make sure that I don't ruin it. So thanks so much to all of you that have submitted questions in my Instagram story. I really do appreciate it, and I'm going to go through now and answer those questions. I've got some really exciting questions, some really interesting ones, some pretty weird ones as well, I'm not going to lie, and I can't promise that I'll include all of them in this video because there are some topics that might get me cancelled from YouTube if I discuss them, so we're not going to discuss that. But I'm going to get through as much of them as possible, so thanks so much to all of you, and there will be other chances for submitting questions to me for me to answer in future videos as well. I've got to apologise for the lighting as well. This house has terrible lighting and I'm trying to find like the most natural light, but then there's clouds that go across the sun and so I get shade and then I get loads of light and it's quite difficult, but hopefully this looks all right. Anyway, let's crack on. So the first question, can you explain the journey from a young age to where you are now? Great question, and it's a good like first question to start this video. So I started off from a young age just doing kind of every sport I possibly could, and I've got to thank my parents massively for the amount of support that they gave me and the ability to just do any sport that I really wanted to do. And then I got to a point where I was sort of 16, 17, and my dad entered me for the local triathlon. It was the Oldbury White Horse Triathlon in Calne. I had no idea what a triathlon was, went and did it, and it hurt like hell. It was one of the most painful days of my life that I can remember. And then when I finished the race, like probably most of you out there, I felt hooked. I wanted to just keep going. And so the next few seasons was just about doing local racing, then get a local coach on board to help progress me further. And then I wanted to, represent GB at the age group world champs, sprint distance. I did a number of those. Some of them were successful, some of them were pretty unsuccessful. Then I tried to dip my toes into the Elite Super Series stuff and racing a bit more ITU stuff. Very quickly realised I was not very good at it and got spat out very quickly from that. Some of those boys are just unbelievably quick and I just couldn't hold on at all. Realised that wasn't really the distance for me. Decided to step it up to middle distance, raced a few Castle Series races. I rate their races a lot. Raced a few Outlaw races as well, absolutely love the Outlaw races, and then stepped into like the 70.3 and the Ironman branded stuff, realised that actually I was doing okay at it for my age, and kind of had the idea that actually I could go professional here, and it was a bit of a rocky road, bit unsuccessful, bit successful, then a bit unsuccessful again. The next question, favourite 70.3 you've done? I think that would have to be 70.3 Dunleary in Ireland. I did it, I can't remember the year that I did it, it was a good few years ago. Alistair Brownlee was there, Adam Bowden, some other big names in the sport. And it was just a course that really suited me. Like, it was a pretty tough bike, some classic kind of like harsh conditions, and I just absolutely loved it. And it's a real shame that they've discontinued that course now, because it was definitely one of my favourites, that's for sure. Next question, what's going to be your 2022 race bike? Now, this is actually really exciting because I've got the bike lined up already. I'm not going to tell you right now, but keep your eyes peeled because there is going to be a video on the channel coming out very soon where I pick up my new bike. Tips on not getting bored on long duration training. This is a very good question. You can do anything really, like listen to music, stuff like that. Although on a long bike ride or any bike ride, I don't really think it's that safe to listen to music, especially in the UK. Like if I lived in Mallorca or Lanzarote or somewhere else where the cars were a little bit more sensible, I probably would listen to music. But in the UK, I've had so many close calls. I do not want to listen to music. I don't want to be distracted because I think it's really dangerous. So long bike rides, I would say break it up with, like a cafe stop, or just break it up mentally. If you've got a 3-hour ride, don't think of it as a big 3-hour ride. Break it up every hour, or break it up when you should be eating and fueling and stuff like that, just to mentally make it a lot easier for yourself. Obviously running, if you're going off on the trails and stuff like that, by all means listen to music, listen to a podcast, stuff that just gets you through it really. Top tips for fueling through half and full Ironman. Well, first of all, I haven't done a full Ironman yet, so I can't give you massive tips on that. But for half Ironman, Honestly, fueling is a very, very personal thing. Now, I'm very lucky to be supported by an amazing company called Precision Hydration. They do electrolytes, but they also do fueling as well, and they do a fueling strategy online. So I would allude to going towards them and checking out the links in the description below. However, ultimately you have to find what works for you. So gels might work for you, solids might work for you. I would suggest a mix of both. And just making sure you're getting in enough. Don't be scared to get in enough fuel. So really you want to be aiming for sort of 80 to 90 grams of carbs an hour over a half. And if anything, like a little bit more as well. There are people that are really pushing the boat out and actually, having over 100 grams of carbs an hour at a 70.3 in Ironman. You just need to train your body to get used to it, I think. So don't just turn up to race day and expect your body to be able to deal with the calories that you're putting in. Make sure that you're training with that specific fuel so that on race day you don't have any surprises. What are your goals for this season? Great question. Just want to be competitive in the pro field, really. Like I alluded to in my last video, and I will link it in the cards above, the pro fields in the last few years in triathlon have just gone crazy, and the level of the quality and the depth of field is massive. And I just want to showcase that I've been working hard in training and I'm a force to be reckoned with. And so I just want to be competitive, get some decent results behind me, have some confidence-inducing results, and race some tough people out there. That's my goal for this season. If you could only do 3 hours a week on the bike, what would your workout look like? I tell you what, it would probably just be a 3-hour coffee ride. That's it. That'd be dreamy, wouldn't it? What's your dream TT/triathlon bike you'd like to have? Well, I have got a new triathlon bike coming in the very near future, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But I guess if I was to say any bike out there, there's so many good looking bikes at the minute. I'd say the Trek Speed concept, like the new design of that looks amazing. So I would say that looks like a really, really nice bike. I think the BMC looks really good, but also the bike that I'm getting in the near future, like I said, that's up there. That's definitely up there. Did you get the glasses so you could look clever? Yes, I did. No, actually, all joking aside, my eyesight, this video is just going to be all about honesty. My eyesight is absolutely terrible. So I'm wearing lenses and glasses on top of lenses. My eyesight is so bad. And yeah, it's better than it used to be, but it's still really not good. So I don't really like wearing glasses that much because it makes my eyes look so big because, my eyesight is just terrible. So basically I've got lenses in my eyes, and then these are like top-up glasses just to even things out, because I've got a bit of astigmatism in my left eye, which means that the prescription for both eyes isn't the same. So I've got the same lenses in both eyes, and then these glasses are kind of to even things out to make it sort of 20/20. That's the long-winded answer for you, mate. What is the biggest issue long course is currently facing in its growth? It's a very good question, and it's something that I sort of alluded to in my last video with just the rapid growth of triathlon, the rapid sort of competitiveness of triathlon. And like I said, the links are in the cards above. Now, issues facing the sport, I mean, I guess there might need to be at some point some sort of regulations put in place to control the development of the sport. I think that's also, though, that's the really exciting thing about triathlon, is there's no, like, let's say UCI. UCI control a lot in cycling, and there are very strict regulations, and that's why there's potentially not been as much development in cycling as there is in triathlon. Although triathlon is a very young sport, so obviously you're going to see rapid growth and rapid development in the young years of the sport, and cycling's been around for donkeys, so obviously not as much progression there. However, are we going to have to see some sort of regulations in the sport at some point? Potentially, because it might get to the point where it's already at the point where it's a little bit ridiculous. Like, the bikes at the minute are so expensive, and it's just out of people's price ranges. And triathlon is already a middle-class sport. Let's make no mistake about that. It's already a middle-class sport, and it's getting to that point where it's pushing the boat out a little bit too much potentially, and it's forcing people away from the sport because they can't afford it. And what really gets me, and what really kind of like upsets me a little bit, is there's going to be plenty of people out there that are massive talents and could be insane in the sport, but they don't have the support that they need, and they don't have the financial backing that they need to actually just get into the sport. And that's really sad, actually, because it doesn't seem that inclusive. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues with triathlon, is it's not actually that inclusive of a sport. You have to actually have quite a lot of financial backing behind you. And I, hands up, would say, without my parents helping me from a younger age, I wouldn't be where I am now. No doubt about it. And if you haven't got that luxury, then it's going to be really, really tough for you. And triathlon's continually progressing to become more and more expensive. And so that's probably the biggest issue with triathlon. And then also with the integration of the PTO, that's obviously brilliant. And the PTO, just putting money into the sport, is brilliant. However, how long is that going to last? That's a question that I'm asking myself. And it's like, well, if you're relying on the PTO, what if they suddenly go, yeah, we don't want to do this anymore? That could screw quite a lot of people over. But that's just, it's food for thought, eh? Currently, who do you rely on to push you to grow your training, approach, and mindset? That's a great question. So I've had a coach for a number of years now, always been in my corner, always been backing me, Mark Threlfall. Awesome coach, and he's always supported me 100%, and that's been really, really helpful to have someone that I believe in 100%, who's really been pushing me is absolutely fantastic. But I do have other coaches as well, and the support of, let's say, the Bath Training Centre who I train with. That's an awesome facility, and that's a great place to get inspiration from other athletes as well. And then also I'm working with Tom Crudgington from Body Development. You would have seen the strength work that I've been doing. Tom's awesome. Like he's so inspirational. He knows his stuff. Everything that I do in the gym, he's got a reason for doing it, and he knows exactly where it's going, how we're going to progress, and what it's going to look like, and the reason why we're doing it. And I think that's really important, to have that peace of mind that actually what I'm doing is going to be beneficial. And so that really, really helps. So having all these different people in my corner, that's awesome. And that helps push me to be the best that I can possibly be. Also, another one on this question is my dad, actually, and he probably won't be watching. Actually, I can guarantee he won't be watching this video because he doesn't really know what social media is, to be honest. But he's always been a massive inspiration for me, and he's always been that person that I've tried to kind of look up to. With regards to his mentality, he's a very old school mentality. Just grit your teeth and get through it. And sometimes there's a place for that, sometimes there's not. More often there is a place for that, and I think in this day and age there really is a place for that, and too many people get offended by things, too many people are a little bit pathetic. You just need to suck it up and just get through it. And so I look to my dad for inspiration, and just kind of when things are getting tough, he's worked his whole life, he's worked his arse off, he still gets up super early every morning, he's always got a positive attitude, and so I try to be as much like my dad as possible, and I feel like if I can do that, then I'll be the best that I can possibly be. So it's kind of like taking inspiration from my dad and just being the best that I can. When's your next beer mile? Hopefully not for a while, because that was the most painful thing. One of the most painful things I've ever done. Not fun at all. What training volume should I be doing to complete an Olympic distance well? That is a very good question, and my answer is it depends. And it sucks that that's my answer, but it really does. It depends on your lifestyle, who you are, how much training you can take, how much training you can do in and around family, work, stuff like that, different commitments, and what your body responds to as well. Do you respond to higher volume? Do you respond to higher intensity? Stuff like that. It's working around what is best for you. So having a good amount of intensity, but also some easier stuff, getting some strength work in there as well. So I know it's not a really specific answer, but everyone's so different. You can't really be specific with this answer unless you actually have a one-to-one and actually discuss your lifestyle and work around it that way. What is your opinion on Alphafly and Vaporfly on an amateur level? That's a great question as well. So, honestly, it is quite funny. You show up to park runs now and everyone's wearing Alphaflys and Vaporflys. The one thing that's quite funny is if there's something that you can spend money on that will make you better, people will do it. But if there's something that you need to work a little bit harder on or be a little bit disciplined with, people won't do it. So, for example, people are more than happy to spend 15 grand on a bike, but they're not happy to cut, a couple of kilos of body weight, obviously if they need to get the same sort of benefit, if not more benefit. So, and it's the same with the shoes as well. You've got these 250 quid shoes. Are they going to be beneficial? Only really when you're properly shifting, I think. And to be honest, it is classic that people will always be willing to spend money on things rather than actually be a little bit more disciplined and work on other areas that might be a little bit more effort, but yield a little bit more reward. But I am not telling you what to do with your money. If you want to spend 250 quid on a pair of shoes, by all means do, because they look quite nice and they feel quite good. How did you find 2020/2021 prepping for events on short notice / might be cancelled? Yeah, it was tricky. It was just, you couldn't really blame anything. You just had to go with the flow, see what happened. And I'm actually quite good at that. I don't actually mind not having too much of a plan. I will continue to show up. I will continue to work hard. Obviously, it's good to have a vague structure, and it was quite difficult. But ultimately, it wasn't a massive problem. It was just, you got to take it on the chin and do the best with what you've got and control the controllables. I think that's the biggest thing that I try to focus on, is controlling what I can control. If there's things that I can't control, there's no point in worrying about it. Best tips to improve swimming technique. Now, swimming, unfortunately, is an irritating sport because more effort does not equal more speed. And if anything, actually, sometimes more effort equals less speed in swimming, which is really frustrating. So what I would say is, get someone to watch you, or even better, get someone to video you so they can show you where you're going wrong. Someone who actually understands swim technique, so that then they can pick apart your stroke and actually give you valuable insights. Take your time with swimming as well. Swimming is a frustrating sport. You've got to take your time with it and just understand that the effort does not equal speed. And actually, the more relaxed you are in the water, generally the quicker you will be. What percent of FTP do you hold for a 70.3? Generally 90 to 95%. Kind of like sweet spot level. In the pro field, you will get surges, so it's not just holding literally like a flat line for however long the bike takes. It's kind of surging up, surging down, but generally the normalized power will be around 95% of FTP. Training periodization, polarized, mixed, threshold. Good question. And the answer is, again, and it sucks that this is my answer, it depends. It depends what your body responds to and what you can cope with. At the minute, I'm actually really trying to, and you will have seen from my previous videos, if you've watched them, that I'm trying to have a lot, more of a higher volume. And because of the high volume, I can't have as much intensity as maybe I might like, or maybe I have done in the past. But I'm just experimenting with it, and I'm seeing if the body reacts to it in a good way or a negative way. And then I think the answer here is, see what works best for you. Experiment with different ways of training and different methodologies. And if it goes well, great. If it doesn't go well, then change it a little bit and try something different and see what happens. Do you think pro license should be given automatically based on results, or is it okay as an opinion? Not 100% sure on this question. I don't really know what it means. But ultimately, yeah, if you had a really good result, I think it should do. Different nationalities and different kind of governing bodies will have different rules and regulations on this. And naturally, because Britain produces some of the best triathletes in the world, it is very, very hard to get your pro license in the UK. That's almost a good thing as well, though, because if you've got a pro license in the UK as a British athlete, you're going to be very competitive in the pro field because it's difficult to acquire it. However, from another nation, sometimes all you have to do is just email the governing body and they're like, yeah, we'll just give you a pro license. Like, that to me doesn't really make sense because you haven't really earned it, I don't feel like. So actually, the tough standards in British triathlon, yes, they're difficult, and yes, I've had my difficulties with the pro license. However, I think it is a good thing because if you have qualified, you're going to do well. How do you keep on top of fatigue/recovery when training for triathlon? Great question, and it's something that I've just got to really focus on. It's got to be a priority, making sure you're getting enough sleep. It's difficult. I will not lie to you. It is difficult to get it right. And I do have a few hiccups along the way, but I try to do the best I possibly can. And I just work on the fundamentals: eating, sleeping, and drinking. Those are the three things I really try and focus on. If I can try and get those squared away, I know I'm going to do well. I'm a 19-year-old doing the Outlaw Half Woburn in June. What are your top tips for this? Well, I'm not too sure what the course is, mate, but seeing as you're 19, you're a pretty young athlete. Just go and enjoy it. Just give it your best shot. Obviously, it's a half distance, so make sure you've got a good nutrition and hydration strategy for race day. You've tried and tested it. You've worked on different pacing strategies as well, and you've got a plan going into the race. But ultimately, I would say, just go and have a good time. Enjoy it. Get the most out of it. Doesn't matter about the result. Just have a good time. Turbo intervals. Do you always use erg mode or not? I don't, actually. I do use erg mode occasionally because I do think it's a good tool to use. But sometimes erg mode can actually be detrimental, and I think sometimes it's really good to actually find the power yourself, not just have to sit there and just suck it up and get through it. So it depends what the intervals are, and it depends how I'm feeling as well, because erg mode is great if you're feeling good, but if you're not feeling good, erg mode can be your worst enemy. So picking the intervals where you're using erg mode is quite important. Jam or cream first on your scones? Right, the fact that this is a question is ridiculous, because whoever's putting jam on their scones first, it just get in the bin. What is that all about? You should always have cream and then jam on your scones. And I'm sorry, but if anyone in the comment section is arguing otherwise, I'm not happy, because that's not acceptable. Who in their right mind will put jam on before cream? It just does not make sense to me. 10 Mile TTPB, I believe it is 1946 at Castle Combe a few years ago, and I really want to get closer to 19, but yeah, that was really good. Budget cycling holiday, Lanzarote or Gran Canaria? Well, I've never been to Gran Canaria, and I can rate Lanzarote, so I think it's very good. But also, for cycling alone, I'd probably allude to going to Mallorca and going to the north side of Mallorca, so to Port de Palencia or Alcudia. The cycling out there is insane, so I would look there. I think you can get pretty cheap flights and cheap Airbnbs, so have a little look. Tip for a 17-year-old who wants to devote life to Ironman: to go pro, aka see you at the start line. Nice. So first of all, what I would say to this is you're 17. Do not force things. Don't stress about things. Don't stress about getting certain results or anything. Just get experience and just enjoy it. And don't force it. You know, you're 17. You shouldn't be doing an Ironman anyway. So don't absolutely mully yourself in these first few years being in the sport. Just relax, just enjoy it. Learn as much as you possibly can. Yes, race, and yes, obviously you want to do well, but you've got so much learning that's needed and so much development there. And as you get older, you will get better. So don't stress about the result. Just enjoy it. Do what you can, and just give it your best. What point in your life did you start triathlon, and did you do any other sports growing up? Well, luckily I had the ability to do every single sport that I wanted as long as I enjoyed it. My parents were incredibly supportive, and I thank them so much for that, because it just made me really well-rounded and meant that I had the ability to try everything that I wanted to try, and if I didn't enjoy it, I wasn't forced to do it. And that's what I really liked about my parents, is they weren't forcing me to do things. They weren't like, there's plenty of forceful parents out there, and it kind of annoys me, because that's why there's a massive drop off in certain sports, because parents are so forceful, and then kids realise, actually, I don't have to do this. And I never had that, because my parents didn't force me. They were just like, if you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. And so that was really, really good. Difficult part to being a professional triathlete? Well, the difficult part is it's not as glamorous as a lot of people think. You say you're a pro triathlete and everyone's like, wow, you must be doing really well. And you're like, yeah, not really, because you don't get any money as a pro athlete, especially when you're in your early years of being a pro triathlete. And it's just balancing as much as you possibly can. Like, you need to have a job that financially helps you to support you, but then you also need to do as much training as you possibly can to be the best you can possibly be, to race against athletes that are just full-time athletes. And it's really difficult. It's a juggling act, but that's also the beauty of the sport of triathlon, and I wouldn't have it any other way. How do you maintain a social life with all your training, or are you not too bothered about it? Good question. I don't really have that much of a social life, I'll be totally honest. I don't really go out much. I don't drink much. Not that I'm not massively sociable, and I do enjoy spending time with friends, but at the same time, I also I've got a plan. I've got a desire to keep working on the things that I'm working on, and so that's my like priority, if that sort of makes sense. So that is it. I'm really sorry if I didn't answer one of your questions. I will do a live video on this at some point. I really hope this video isn't too long and I don't want to bore all of you. But yeah, thanks so much for submitting your questions. I hope that video was somewhat interesting. Comment in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next video.